I thought it might be interesting to maybe shift to the next thinker that we were going to discuss, Aristophanes. And he provides another early account of Eros in Western literature. And Aristophanes was, I believe, a Greek playwright. And in his play, The Birds, he provides an overview of Eros. And again, it's another cosmology. It's another story of how the cosmos came to be. And in his account, it's somewhat different from Hesiod's, but also there are some similarities as well. But in this account, we have a coming together of what Aristophanes describes as the night and the dark. And these two, call them forces or call them gods or what have you. These two forces come together and they give birth to Eros. So it's somewhat different from the first account. So in the first account, we have Eros bringing these two gods together, Uranus and Gaia, and then the cosmos is born. In this case, we have Eros being the product of the coming together of the night and the dark. So I find that's kind of an interesting difference. And so but what we have going on here is we have a sexual union. And basically, love comes into being. So after this original, union between night and dark, love comes into being. And then once love comes into being, love takes over that procreative function and serves as the progenitor and procreator of everything that exists in the cosmos. And in Aristophanes' play, I guess the birds have some kind of priority. So the birds are actually given birth to before the actual primordial gods, and then the primordial gods come into being. And again, though, I think this verse gets at the core idea, which is the function of Eros. The function of Eros is to unify or to marry things together, either kind of in the celestial realm or in the terrestrial realm. And as a result of this unification, well, in Aristophanes' account, love well, I shouldn't say it's just love, but love comes together with chaos. That's something I kind of glossed over there. Love comes together with chaos, and then they give birth to the birds and then the primordial gods. But again, so the key theme would be that there still is this unitive force operating in the cosmos. In this case, it's love and chaos coming together. So I find that to be interesting. Thoughts at all, Ryan?
Definitely less familiar with Aristophanes. I mean, a little bit through Nietzsche. I remember learning a bit about him, but I think this idea of love and chaos. I mean, I think it seems to be obviously like derivative, almost kind of. I think it's representing some sort of archetype. Maybe not derivative, but maybe derivative of some similar archetype that people are trying to get at. It seems that people are using different metaphors or analogies to get at this, but it seems to be representing some sort of fundamental dichotomy that's present maybe in our psychology or maybe even within philosophy, because I mean it seems like a lot of philosophy grew out of these playwrights, these famous playwrights like Aristophanes. A lot of philosophers really kind of looked at these playwrights to gain a lot of their ideas. And some sense, I mean, you look at Plato, their dialogues, they're almost like plays, right?
Right.
But I think maybe even like someone like Aristophanes with his plays, like it's almost like a way of communicating these philosophical ideas that marries these sort of concepts. It's not sort of like you read Plato's dialogues and they're just kind of, I mean, there's some humor here and there, but I find them kind of like dry and boring.
Right.
So when I think of Aristophanes, probably because of Nietzsche, I think of this sort of marriage of wisdom and like, but conveying it in a way that's not sort of dry,
right?
Not devoid of passion. There's some very insightful wisdom in there, but it has its chaos. You think of these Greek tragedies or these comedies,
right?
And that's sort of what comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a classicist by any means. I've read a handful of classical literature. I've read some Homer. I've read some of the playwrights, and I guess in the case of Euripides here.
Are we talking about Euripides or Aristophanes?
Oh, sorry. I'm confusing my playwrights, Aristophanes.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't go off on a complete tangent. That was.
I think it's the fact that all of these Greek playwrights, all of their names end with an es at the end. So.
Yeah.
But in any case, yeah. Thanks for correcting me there.
I thought I was correcting myself, to be honest.
But Aristophanes, I mean, what I hear you saying is there's something you get in a epic poem or myth that you don't get in, say, a philosopher like Plato, even in the dialogues. You get a dryness. In Plato, you get a dryness, you get an abstractness. You get an analysis of what a concept means, what the definitions of something are. Even though I must admit, and maybe I have a dry sense of humor, but I always get a bit of a laugh with, reading Plato's dialogues and Socrates ranting on and on about this and that. And, I think there's some humor to be had there, but
you have to be a philosophy student though to find the humor, to be honest.
No, I think so. I think what you're getting like in a playwright like Aristophanes is you're getting a bit of that passional part of philosophy. I think what poetry does in some sense is it evokes the passions. And just when I was reading through that passage of Aristophanes in preparation for this conversation, it did evoke some emotion, it did evoke some passion. It goes beyond the literal, it goes beyond the linear or the logical sometimes, and it kind of appeals to your imagination and stirs up images and emotions that are evoked by those images. And what images and emotions that are evoked by me when I read through this passage is kind of envisioning what these procreative forces might have been, like as, because they're almost personified in some sense, as people, you have a coming together of love and chaos in this procreative union. So they're, it's almost like a marriage of male and female again.
Yes.
In this sexual procreative union. And then out of love and chaos is the rest of the cosmos is born. The birds, and then the primordial gods, and then everything else in between. And so I think that's why, in some sense, too, it's good to go over these myths and these poems, because I think it gives you an appreciation of that part of philosophy, that more passional part of it. At the same time, though, this is not exclusively just appealing to your emotions, but there is too a logic to it. Different cause and effect being kind of trying to be explained in terms of these principles, these personifications.
I think too, I mean, one of the points that you hit home on is like what the verse is really trying to express is, I think, you're saying it's like a way of marrying all celestial and terrestrial beings, and in previous conversations, you've kind of mentioned this in passing, I think, about how oftentimes the way that a society or a culture sort of arranges its gods are in some way a mirror image to us and our relations that we have together. So I think that's perhaps an important way of understanding philosophy. If we're taking philosophy as sort of a tool to understand the world, this maybe perhaps like this in and of itself kind of thing. I think ultimately there is this tendency, even now, maybe not in this sort of, I guess we could call primitive manner of talking about gods, but this sort of almost projection of ourselves onto the world and onto the inner workings of the world.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point you bring up there.